Hi guys, so the Environment Secretary George Eustice was on Sky News with Kay Burley on Monday. Now the issue at hand is how the UK is planning to break international law in not respecting the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now Eustice did two things in this interview. He explained that the UK is currently not upholding its side of the bargain. This is something new. He said that the government was not issuing export health certificates. He then later said in the interview that Parliament deems what is legal and what is not. What the hell?
We had the EU ambassador to the UK on Sophie's programme, I think, yesterday, saying the move is illegal and unrealistic and talks of a trade war and retaliation. Is it really worth it?
Well, the reality is that we needed to do something in this space. We've been talking with the European Union now for some time about making the provisions of the Northern Ireland Protocol work effectively. The difficulty we've had is that the European Union have said we're not allowed to change our mandate. Member states have said we're not allowed to have an opinion on this. It's reserved to the European Union. And there's been this circular problem with the European Union just refusing to revisit their mandate.
Why do they need to revisit their mandate? Why? And I've heard this before. I've heard Brexiteers, including George Eustice, talk about how Maroš Šefčovič needs to have a bigger mandate. He needs to be able to negotiate more. That's the business of the EU. Why are you telling the EU what to do? You signed an agreement. Within that agreement, there are particular mandates. There are particular things you can do, and there are particular things you can't do. You shouldn't have signed up to it if you didn't want to be constrained by those requirements.
And at some point, therefore, you have to take matters into your own hands and to clarify in law what the Northern Ireland Protocol means. And that's what we're doing with this bill. And it's important that we do that because we have some temporary grace periods in place where we're not implementing all of the full checks and not requiring export health certificates and so on. And it's crucial.
Why is that happening? Because you unilaterally extended those grace periods. You're supposed to come to the committee and iron out these problems. You decided, no, we're not actually going to go through these committees. What we're going to do is we're going to act unilaterally. The grace periods were part of the agreement. The EU and the UK said, okay, we're going to have these grace periods to ease Northern Ireland into this new state that it's in. And what did you do? Well, you didn't plan for anything. Remember all the Brexit planning, that came to nothing. So instead, you said, well, we're going to actually unilaterally extend these grace periods. Obviously, souring relations with the European Union here. And the European Union has taken legal action or started legal action against the UK over these things. You can't say the EU needs to increase its mandate and then if they don't, then we're going to take unilateral action. This is an internationally signed agreement. You can't do that.
That those remain because, ultimately Northern Ireland is part of the UK. It's part of our internal market. And you can't have a situation where things like the sale of sausages from GB to Northern Ireland is outlawed or that seed potatoes from Scotland are not allowed to be sold.
But you agreed to that. As I said, some of these issues can be resolved through the committee. But some of these things are actually built into the agreement itself. They can't be changed. Why is he doing this? Why have you unilaterally extended these grace periods? Why are you not carrying out the checks that you said you would carry out? These export health certificates, the UK government are supposed to be issuing them. They decided not to, unilaterally. That's breaking the agreement.
In Northern Ireland, it's a nonsense, and so we have to address it.
What's changed since we did the deal? If we start breaking deals that we've signed, sealed and delivered, then why would other countries want to do a deal with us?
Well, we're not breaking an agreement. We're bringing clarity to how it should be interpreted.
So, we've unilaterally extended grace periods. We ignored the other side. That's not breaking the agreement. That's clarifying it. My God.
And so the Northern Ireland Protocol always had provisions for what they called the specialised committees to iron out points of detail and to work on those remaining very, very technical issues. So whether a seed potato from Scotland can be authorised to be sold, there's established mechanisms for that. But look, this is the problem. The European Union has refused to even consider that or refer it to their technical committee. So they're not.
But you can't refer everything. Certain things have to be built into the agreements. Otherwise, why did you sign up to it? Is it because you didn't read it? Because you didn't understand it? Or you thought, well, we'll just ignore it later on, which seems to be the case. Some things can be ironed out. Some things are fundamental to protect the single market. You can't get round them.
Clarity after the deal's already done. You can't do that.
No, you can, because it was always envisaged.
Well, not according to the EU. They say that it's illegal, unrealistic, and it's going to be a trade war.
Well, that's not correct. What's legal is what Parliament deems legal through the legislation that it passes.
Wow. And there we have it. Parliament is king. Parliament will decide whether international agreements are legal or not. No, George, it doesn't work like that. Yes, laws within the UK, Parliament and the courts, generally it's the courts that will decide whether something is legal or not. But if it's an international agreement, it's an international court that will decide whether the law has been broken. So in this case, it would be perhaps in some cases the European Court of Justice would decide whether the UK has broken the law or not, or if the EU has broken the law or not. Just imagine it on the other side. Can you imagine if the EU decided we're not going to actually respect parts of the Good Friday Agreement, or sorry, not the Good Friday Agreement. Well, fundamentally at the end of this is the Good Friday Agreement as well as tied in, but we're not going to respect the Northern Ireland Protocol. We're not going to respect the Withdrawal Agreement. And the European Parliament has decided whether it's legal or not. The UK would be jumping up and down with anger, and it would be right. You can't decide to unilaterally ignore parts of international law. I know this is part and parcel of the Conservative Party at the moment when it comes to issues like Rwanda as well and asylum. But you can't do this. This is breaking international law. Now, at the time of the recording, it seems this is going for its second reading in the House of Commons, and we'll have to keep an eye on this to see how things progress. I don't think at the end of this, Boris Johnson is going to implement this into law. It would be insane. But then we're in an insane world when it comes to Brexit. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.